This week on The Modified World, I'm going to continue talking about precious metals and gemstones. So stay tuned. So welcome to The Modified World, the weekly web show about body modification, the people who do it, the people who get it, and why it matters. I'm your host, Senior Piercer up here at the world-renowned Pangea Piercing, and the purveyor of all this internet wackiness, JC Potts. And this week, of course, we're going to continue our discussion about precious metals and gemstones. So let's see. I suppose we should pick up where we left off. Neglected to mention anything about other alloys of gold, such as rose and green. Rose is pretty simple. It's simply gold and copper. The carriage, of course, depends on the ratio, but it's almost always just gold and copper. Now, copper is not necessarily good for your body. We don't like doing initial piercings with rose gold, but we sometimes will. Green gold is gold and silver alloyed together. It gives a really unusual kind of greenish cast to it. A lot more biocompatible. You know, it doesn't tarnish or anything like that because of the high gold content. And I haven't had that much experience with it. I've made a few pieces with green gold, but once again, it's a pretty unusual alloy. Of course, I'd be remiss without mentioning rhodium plated gold, also known as black gold, which, you know, I would argue that I'm from oil producing country and we refer to black gold, we mean crude oil. But in this realm, we're talking about rhodium plated gold. I have not had the best of luck with rhodium plated gold. The pieces that I've gotten have worn off incredibly fast. Now, I've been told that other manufacturers, like Body Vision, have good, solid, durable rhodium plating on their black gold items. Body Vision has a stellar reputation though, so I'd be very surprised if they had anything that was of dubious quality. I would expect a high degree of durability from their rhodium plating. That said though, have not personally tested it out myself though, so take that with a grain of salt. Let's move on to gemstones. When you talk about gemstones, you're talking about two varieties. You're talking about either faceted gems or you're talking about cabochons. Cabochons don't have the facets on there. It's just a smooth buffed top, which work really well, especially for like surface anchor tops, surface piercings, oral piercings, places where you wouldn't want a faceted gemstone. Not only that, but they can be extremely low profile. In faceted gems, you're going to see a few varieties. The first, and something that we're going to avoid, is the foil back piece of glass. Looks like a gem, but it's not. It's seriously just a piece of glass with some foil put on the back of it so that it'll reflect. We don't stock anything like that, and we would hope that you wouldn't either. The second variety would be quality synthetics, like cubic zirconia. Most of your manufacturers that you're going to run into, Anatometal, Industrial Strength, Neometal, Leroy, Body Gems, Body Vision, Body Circle, all these are going to be using primarily cubic zirconia. Cubic zirconia is available in lots of different colors, replicates gemstones extremely well, has a high degree of thermal stability, and they're fairly durable. So, an excellent choice for body jewelry. Body jewelry has to be more durable than, say, a pendant or a brooch or a pin or something like that. It has to be able to withstand the stresses that you come into contact with. So that's one of the reasons why you see a whole lot of synthetic gems in body jewelry. That and the cost factor. Naturally, of course, they're a lot more affordable. And that's a pretty important consideration for a lot of folks. They also are autoclavable, ultrasonicable. You know, you can run them through steam cleaners. They're extremely durable, and so the vast majority of what you're going to see in faceted stones is going to be cubic zirconia. The more expensive body jewelry often features natural gemstones. You see a lot of different varieties. There's a few though that you won't see, and for good reason. You're not going to see a lot of tanzanites. You're not going to see emeralds. You're not going to see natural opals. Reason being is because none of these will survive the trip through the autoclave or the ultrasonic. It's a bit of a problem because you need to ultrasonic and autoclave your jewelry before you insert it into somebody. You will sometimes see gemstones that are iffy on whether or not you'd ever want to run them through an ultrasonic or an autoclave. Things like aquamarines. They're pretty fragile, but they can work. Especially in a healed piercing that's not necessarily going to have the jewelry autoclaved. They're perfectly acceptable. Remember, I talked about cabochons. You're going to see a couple varieties in those. You'll see synthetics and you'll see natural. When it comes to synthetics, you're typically going to be seeing synthetic opals. The reason being, of course, like I'd already stated, natural opals are not autoclavable. Synthetics are infinitely autoclavable though, and work quite well. In the cabochons that are not opal, you will typically see natural gemstones. Things like rose quartz, turquoise, amethyst, things of that nature. Most of the time, most manufacturers have a pretty good track record about only using stones that aren't going to break and be sent back, because they wouldn't make very much money if they kept sending out stuff that would just break. So you're not going to see very many fragile cabochons. You'll mostly see pretty durable stuff. Like I said, a lot of quartzes, a lot of corundums, a lot of hard stones, hematite, tiger eye, the like that. You'll find that the better manufacturers, if you were to call and ask for a custom piece with a stone that would be somewhat incompatible with quality jewelry, we will gently try to steer you in another direction. If you asked for tanzanites, I might suggest an amethyst. If you were to ask for an emerald, I would suggest savorite garnet. If you wanted an opal, I'd say let's go synthetic. I wish there was more I could actually tell you about precious metals and gemstones. For the most part, they're pretty good. They have an extremely long track record and a high degree of biocompatibility. The only things to watch out for is anything like you would with traditional titanium or stainless or niobium body jewelry. Of course, it needs to be smooth. It needs to be highly polished. It needs to be internally threaded. It needs to not have sharp edges on it. And for God's sakes, it certainly should not have the carat stamping on the wear surface. Nothing makes me crazier than seeing a piece of expensive body jewelry that somebody brought at the mall. They bring it in and ask us to do something with it, and it's got that nice 14K stamped right on the wearing surface. We have to tell them, sorry, no, we can't use it. And it's like underwear. Once you buy it, you own it. So you just wind up buying a hollow, ugly, lousy piece of crap that you can't return. I'm trying to help every way I can to help keep people from having to buy the garbage. But you can lead horses to water. Sometimes you can't force them to drink it. You know? I don't know what to tell you. So that was my show this week. I apologize for it being somewhat thin. There's really not that much I can say about gemstones and precious metals. Other than that, they're awesome and you should wear them. Coming soon, we have the illustrious Miss Hannah Cherry from Fatty's Custom Tattoos in Washington, D.C. coming here for a guest appearance. And that video should be quite entertaining. So if you haven't subscribed yet, folks, be sure to, so that you catch that video when it comes out. Not only that, but it helps the show. And speaking of helping the show, maybe you could throw me a favorite. Maybe you could throw me a like. You could share this video on your Tumblr, your Facebook, your Twitter. And of course, you could buy a t-shirt in case you're sick of waiting for a swag giveaway. Besides, it helps the show out. We need to make some money here and there. These things aren't cheap to produce. So be sure to check out the nifty video with t-shirts and buy one. We'll ship it to you, I promise. And of course, be sure to stop by next week for yet another episode of The Modified World.